talk today. Um, as I get started, just want to take a quick moment and define what a low energy operator is. Sometimes people give me this question and say, how is this different than what is called either a high energy or a full energy operator? So not to bore you with the codes, but the low energy is defined by a code called the ANSI A5619. And this is a code that tells us as a manufacturer how we design our product to meet certain criteria. And one of them is the force, which is applied to the door, 15 pounds. So in a full energy operator or a high energy operators is sometimes refers to, might be used in like a supermarket or a pharmacy, and it's controlled by sensors. And I kind of have a picture of one that's in the center of your screen. And as you walk up to the door, that full energy product will actually see your presence, see that you're in motion, and then engage and open. A low energy operator, the door moves slower, and you've used them many, many times. You just might not distinguish the difference between them. And it's almost always activated with a knowing act. So I show a button there, a push button on the wall. Could be a wave to open switch, which has been very, very popular after the pandemic. It could be a card reader, it could be a key switch, but there's some type of device which activates the operator and tells it to open. This is not only for safety, but also for design. This type of product is often used manually. So a lot of the traffic is going to just walk through the door, push the door open, and the door is going to return to the closed position. So a low energy operator has that difference. Usually a full energy operator is never used manually, except if it's some type of emergency where there's a loss of power to the building and people have to have some method of escaping. It's almost always going to activate. Some of the benefits are with a low energy system is we don't need a sensor to activate. So that is a benefit in that it could reduce the cost, and it is something that is often needs to be adjusted or tuned or something. And along with the sensor for activation, we typically don't need a sensor for safety. So in a full energy application, you'll need on the door safety sensors or overhead safety sensors or some type of doorway holding beam. And those can add to the cost and the complexity of the system. And also I show a picture there of what a safety rail is. And you can imagine that in certain applications, that rail could be either unsightly, not aesthetically pleasing, or actually in the way of sweeping or shoveling, depending upon where you live in the country, if you get snow and things like that. So that's some of the differences there. So also, I wanted to mention too, usually a low energy door operator is applied to an existing door, can be applied to an existing door within the field, and they could be glass, aluminum, wood, etc. Usually a full energy door system is sold as a complete package, usually not with the glass, but everything, the door, the frame, the header, as pictured in the lower right-hand side of your screen by another manufacturer that sells the entire door system. So that's a difference with low energy. And that is exactly what the 6200 series operator is. In fact, it is a mid-price point product. It is for a swing door application, and it's very feature rich. So let me start by just kind of describing the mounting method. So up in the upper left of your screen, you could see that the unit could be placed on the pull side. So frequently bathrooms, the operator is mounted inside the bathroom space, so it operates in a pull configuration, or on an exit door, typically it's a push. So push or pull. The only difference in the design of the operator is the arm. The operator itself is neither push nor pull in its design. It just can handle either one with a simple switch setting on board the control. It is the arm that is the only difference between the two. And this particular model is non-handed, so it can work on a right-hand door or a left-hand door. And in fact, we sell either a push unit or a pull unit, or even a universal kit unit where both arms are applied within the box. So it kind of removes that complexity that you might have during ordering. Also, I just wanted to point out the overall profile of the operator is actually very thin. So it's 2 3/4 inches in height. And you'll notice that most commercial frames, and the frame that I'm showing in these examples here is a 2-inch frame face. So the operator is mounted directly to the face of the frame, and it doesn't need much overhead space. So also you'll note in my picture on the right-hand side of your screen, just happens to be an overhead obstruction. There's often such obstructions in the field. This one happens to be an exit sign that you'll notice, the green exit, and the operator is not in the way of the exit sign. So in other words, in a retrofit application, you would not have to relocate that exit sign, but you would find If you're in the automatic door business long enough, you'll find there are various obstructions that you have overhead, sometimes even the ceiling. So having the operator be thin in profile not only gives you that aesthetic appeal of having something that's thin and attractive, but also can make the installation much simpler. And also, being that it mounts to the 2-inch frame, it gives you a nice purchase for the operator's mounting plate to mount to the frame. And you'll notice that it spans virtually across the entire 36-inch opening. This is not only having the benefit of being solid all the way across the header, but also it looks nice. So it kind of blends in to the opening. So it is surface applied. It's not a concealed product necessarily. It's not hidden up underneath the opening, but it looks very attractive and very like unobstructed view of the opening if you were using a glass door. So also in the lower corner, I do indicate some finishes. Those are the most popular ones, your 689, your Duranautic, your black suede, the BSP, or even white seems to be a very popular color. We do offer them as a special order in almost any architectural finish or any sprayed applied acrylic paint color. So the design kind of goes with that architectural look of our series. Okay. Very full featured operator. These are what we call intelligent functions or intelligent features. And there's a lot of them. And I think it'd be worthwhile just to mention some because this is what the purchaser is often expecting. And they help the operator do things that an ordinary surface door closer cannot, in addition to helping physically challenged traffic get through the opening, right? So the first one, infinite hold open. So it's been fairly popular to offer a feature in an office environment where someone can use a remote control, for example, and open the door and leave it held open in the open position, returning it to the closed position when the button is depressed again. So there's a lot of doctors, lawyers, office buildings where that feature is used on the operator. So not only does it control the opening and closing motion of the door for an ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act value, but also just from a convenience standpoint. And worth mentioning, all of these intelligent functions are built into this product standard. There's nothing that you have to remember or order. When you order one of those models that are in the banner website, everything here will come on board the operator ready to be turned on and off. The other one very popular is power close. As you can imagine, wind and stack pressure are going to tend to hold the door open, especially when I have a very, very late door opening feel. I'll have a challenge closing the door. In fact, it's one of the biggest problems that we experience with a hydraulic door closer. People will tell me either my door is too hard to open or I can't get my door to positively close all the time. Correcting one error or problem enhances the other problem. In other words, if I make the door positively closed, then the door can be too hard to open in some cases. So here's one where I can have a very, very, very light opening force, and I can have a powerful closing force in the product, and something I could turn on and off. Also, I could tell the location at where I want it to turn on and off, so I make sure that it operates in a safe manner and doesn't pinch somebody's fingers and things like that. Latch assist is often confused with power close. Latch assist is a feature where you'll actually pull the door inward towards the frame in an effort to release the side load that can often be introduced on the electric strike. So we'll talk a little bit about how these products interface to electric locks in a moment, but it is frequently used with an electric locking device of some sort. And when used with an electric strike, you'll get some settling or again, that wind and stack pressure. And when the activation button's pressed on the wall, the strike could be side loaded. And of course, the system will not be damaged, but just won't function the way the user is expected. So it's a nice feature to be able to turn on, which will pull the door momentarily split second in towards the frame, releasing that side load on the electric strike, and then go ahead and power open. Power assist and push and go are sometimes confused. So power assist, as I apply my hand to the lead edge of the door and open it, it makes the door feel much lighter than it really is. So I've used this feature when the doors become heavy. So maybe you have like a forced entry bullet and blast resistance door, which gets up in weight upwards of say 250 pounds. And you'll want to be able to make the door feel light and you could use this assist feature. Push and go is different in that you initiate an opening motion of the door, and it goes through a cycle. So the door it'll be equivalent to having to press the knowing act wall button. So the assist is different, and then as soon as I let the door go with my hand, the door will stop in that location and then begin to close. When I use push and go, it goes through an opening cycle. It holds open for a period of time, typically 5 seconds, and then it'll time out and then it'll come closed. Almost all automatic operators have obstruction detection of one form or another. Basically, while the door is either opening or closing, if it meets an obstruction, it'll just simply stop, time out, and then close, or what we call stall. So a very common question I get is, if my door is locked and I activate the button repetitively, will I damage or burn out the motor mechanism on the product? And the answer in all cases is no. The obstruction detection simply just tells the unit to stop opening. And not only is a protection of the occupant or pedestrian, but also of the system itself. So obstruction detection. Open delay, very frequently used in vestibule applications where you want a series of doors to work within time. So if you think about an application where I activate a single knowing act button, I want a set of doors, usually say the exterior doors, to be delayed with the interior doors. So I have some type of weather interlock. Maybe I'll wait 2 or 3 seconds. I'll go ahead and then begin to open the interior doors in a vestibule in a delayed fashion. And then the doors will reverse and come closed in the other method. So I don't have wind blowing through my opening into my building space. So an open delay. Electric lock interface, very common, as I mentioned earlier, to connect it to an electric lock. So oftentimes you'll want to delay the release of the electric lock and then the engagement of the operator so that the two don't compete with one another and jam up. So an interface sounds real easy to do, but if you're trying to do it with relay logic, it's complicated. If you're doing it with the operator, it's really, really simple. Outside push button disable, a nice feature when you're automating, say, a single-use bathroom, and you want to disable one of the buttons, the outside button, when somebody's inside the space using the toilet facility. You'll want to disable the button for one reason. Also, I find people do connect it to timers, and at a particular period of time, say 5 o'clock or 8 o'clock, I want to disable the access control system outside or the outside button, but I still want to let people leave in the event that they're inside the space. So very simple to disable one of the two buttons, distinguishing between the interior and the exterior. Presence detector input, I find that there's facilities, particularly the assisted living center, where I may want to prohibit the door from being set into motion if somebody is in the path of the door. Like, for example, somebody's on the outside of the building attempting to get in, somebody's on the inside of the building, they happen to be in the path of the door. What I could do is just tell the operator to disregard the activation button when that individual is within the pathway of the door. This way the door doesn't open up into their path and perhaps startle them. Again, if the door were to come in contact with them, the obstruction detection would simply stop and close, but the presence detector could be used. It's an accessory item that's added, but the input is handy to have within the feature set. Lastly, the emergency interface relay can connect to the building fire panel. Different applications, traffic patterns, and different codes regulate whether we want the operator to open and stay open or whether we want to disable the operator when it's used within a fire door assembly. You can imagine if I'm using a door in a corridor and I'm trying to prevent smoke, or happens to be a smoke or fire barrier door, in the event of that emergency, I don't want the door to be cycling or to be staying open. I want the door to be disabled and come closed like an ordinary door closer would be. So a lot of intelligent functions, and so there's a lot of things there that you'll not remember. So how does this system help you manage all those? And that's the basis point of my next slide. So I think this is really the unique core feature of the Norton Rixson automatic operator family, including the 6200. So center and right of your screen is this method by which these features and values and settings and adjustments are turned on and off. And it is, if it's once it's used by the technician, I find they never go back to the old method of turning potentiometers and dip switches or reading a very small LCD display screen. The power of the programming is held within their hand. I happen to be showing it here on my iPhone. Any phone, any laptop, any iPad system will work. It's not about the smart device that's handheld. It is just basically the connection by which the smart device goes back and talks to the operator. In this case, it happens to be Wi-Fi. So I remind people that the fact that we're using the term Wi-Fi programming is merely the communication protocol between the smart handheld device, in this case, my phone, and the operator. The operator itself becomes a hotspot. It has absolutely nothing to do with the building's IT infrastructure. So the product is not connected to the World Wide Web in any manner. It is merely like you may have connected your computer or your laptop to perhaps a printer in your home. It's not on the network. You're just talking to it locally. So password protected. It only works within 20 feet of the door opening, and it stays on for 20 minutes. So you can make these settings and adjustments using this communication protocol, and then it simply turns off. So the thing that I like about the way this works is it's a browser based, not an app based. I know when you're looking at this, it kind of looks like an app and it acts like an app, but it's all of the resident information for the programming is stored within the operator. And the reason this is important, if you're one of the folks that's on the call or watching this, you may have a number of technicians that are going to be interfacing with the operator, not just a single technician. So therefore, the information is resident on the operator, not on the app, not on the phone. The phone is merely the method of making the adjustments, which are then stored in the operator, right? So if I have multiple technicians which are going back to that door location, I don't have to worry, well, is the information resident on Jay's app or Jay's phone? Because it isn't, it's resident on the operator itself. So using a non-app or a browser-based programming methodology facilitates that much better than an app would. So you can do an awful lot of things with this, and it's just basically point and click. All those intelligent features are simply just turned on and off. On the screen is kind of just rolling here, showing you how to make simple adjustments like how to tell the door to stay open for a longer period of time or a shorter period of time, how to open quicker, how to open with more force or less force, and very easy to use. What I can also do is save these settings. I can go to the next door and I can upload them. You know, very common question in from a facility manager is, can you set up your system so that all of the doors within my facility are using the same profile and functioning the same way, the same speed, the same hold open time, the same intelligent features are on. And this makes it very easy to do that because once I program one door, I save the settings and I go and upload them to another door. The other thing I really like about this is the ability to upgrade the firmware so it doesn't have that planned obsolescence as can happen with some of the older design product. You sell a product, the firmware is updated. How would you get back out into the field to update the firmware? This kind of facilitates being able to do that. So very powerful application. And I talked a lot about what the various intelligent features are and how they're defined. You may have noticed on your screen under the help section on the program, you'll see it defines what it is. So if you didn't know what power assist or push and go is, when you mouse over it on your smart device, it'll tell you what that feature does and how it works. Okay. So technical specifications, kind of the nitty gritty of it. The line drawing shows you the projection, 4 3/4, and then the height again is 2 3/4 inches tall. So you could see how the operator sits within the 2-inch frame face very nicely with very little overhead obstruction. And then you could see the projections of the arms and stuff. So very nice. And of course, it spans the near 36-inch opening. And again, it can be used on interior doors or exterior doors. 200 pounds, 48 inches wide. And it is a 130-degree opening angle on the push side, 120-degree opening angle on the pull side. and there's 4 inputs and 2 outputs. And by inputs and outputs, we mean the inputs could be that inside button, the outside button, emergency interface relay input, etc. And outputs are the vestibule application and the electric locking capability. So under electrical data, I just mentioned that there's power output, in fact. So to control your wave to open device, your RF radio frequency button that you may be using, or your electric strike, there is a power supply built into the unit. So the contacts that we're talking about as far as being outputs could control an electric strike, and those contacts can run devices up to 400 milliamps or 0.4 amps. So there is a 24-volt DC filtered and regulated power supply with a 400 milliamp output embedded within the product. So if you want to control your electric strike, your wave to open, etc., you don't have to buy an auxiliary power supply. You could use the one that's on board. As far as certifications go, it is our standard to have the highest level of certification that we could obtain for our product. So this particular one is certified to that A15619, which is the low energy code that I mentioned when I opened up the presentation. It is UL 325, but also 10C. So 10C means that you could use it on a, in this case, for this operator, up to 3-hour fire door. Typically, operators it isn't necessary for them to be rated for 3 hours, but this one, usually that would be like a barrier door between 2 occupancies, but this one is rated for that is the highest level of 10C that you could obtain. Of course, it does comply with the ADA or Americans with Disabilities Act, because that is the chief design principle behind the product or use of the product. And we also make it in an ISO facility, which was the one I showed you in Monroe, North Carolina. I did want to call to your attention the 2021 International Building Code change. So if you go back, the ADA laws go back to the 80s, and automatic operators have been used for many, many years. There's the total addressable market is quite large, as you could imagine, and there's not really a school facility, hospital and healthcare facility, or even government facility where you won't see low energy automatic swing door operators used. And in public spaces, the Home Depot, Lowe's, Eckerd's, Walgreens, Walmart, and things, you'll see those full energy operators used. And they're done for convenience of people that are pushing carts and things. But there was really no law up until recently that required them for the public accessible entrances. So back in 2021, the International Building Code adopted language, and it's technical. And there's a lot of detail, as there always is with codes, and there's exceptions and things. But I think it's a step in the right direction, and it basically says that power operators will be required on public entrances, 60% of them, when the occupant load is 300 or greater. So prior to this, it was a convenience to have an operator. It wasn't a requirement. So going forward, as these various states adopt, I've listed some here that have been the early adopters of the code. It will become a requirement. And again, you will want to consult your authority having jurisdiction or your ASA ABLOY, a specification writer, as to how this impacts your local jurisdiction. Could be state or it could be local, as to whether you're in compliance or need to comply. But again, my reason for pointing this out is really to show you that it is a step in the direction of these being the operators being more of a requirement than what used to be just a convenience. Okay, so that said, it would be a reasonable question to ask, obviously, where do we see these things? And I've put some pictures down here of applications, and really it's almost everywhere, particularly with that last slide that I showed you. So very, very popular in retail. And of course, that will grow more with this code change. Banking, public entrances, classrooms, bathrooms, government. Bathrooms are a big user of low energy automatic operators. The turning space within a bathroom is often limited, and that was one of the applications where it was recommended in the past to have one. If the wheelchair couldn't manipulate within a certain envelope or certain size, it was recommended that the operator be provided to move the door out of the way, anywhere where the door would be a barrier. So some great applications that you could see here. Okay, so with that, I would like to see if anybody has any any questions for me on the 6200 series low energy operator or low energy operators in general? All right, Travis, if there's something more I could do, I just wanted to thank everyone for their time or for listening. And again, for your needs, please go to Banner's website or call one of the Banner team members to get this product.
Okay.
Oh,
That looks like
Armando.
we do have Armando has a question. So,
Hi, Armando. What can I answer for you?
Armando, I think you still need to click unmute on your end.
To unmute him here.
If you're,
Oh, there he goes.
oh, there we go. Okay. Oh, okay. It looks like he didn't necessarily intend to raise his hand.
Yeah, no worries.
Okay. Well, if there are no other questions, we can go ahead and start to wrap up. If you look in the chat, Brenton Webb, who's one of the members of our EAC team, has just put the email in there. That email reaches out to a group of people at Banner who are here as really technical support experts. They can help you with project designs as well as quoting for EAC projects. But then it looks like Mark Taylor did have a question here.
So to answer the question, so yeah, the 6211, we sell the product in a push configuration, we sell the product in a pull configuration, and then we sell the product in a push-pull configuration. So the 6211 would be the pull, and the 689 is the designator for the color, the finish. So 689 would be kind of like a brushed aluminum. There's a 690, and then there's which is like a Duranodic or a dark brown, and then there's a black suede and then a white suede. So yes, the designator really that you're referring to, I called it the 6200 series. The other numbers are just for the push and pull. So, but good, thank you, good question.
And then I'm putting a YouTube link here in the chat that links to what we call the easy install video, because it's an installation of the 6200 series. That's a comprehensive video, and it's less than 5 minutes. So just to give you an idea of how easy it is to install this device.
Correct. Very good, yes.
So with that, thank you for your time. If there are no other questions, we'll go ahead and adjourn. And Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to present for us. And we recorded this session. We will send an email out to everybody that registered with a link to the recording.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Enjoy the rest of your day.